Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That's just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yep, live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. It is the Thursday edition of the Michael Dukes Show. In fact, the final day of broadcast for this week. So I guess first things first, out of the way, get everything out of the way. We will be off the air tomorrow and Monday, but be returning to the airwaves on Tuesday. You will have alternate programming in all the various locations around the state. So fret not. You'll have something on your radio to keep you warm and cozy, to keep you comfortable. Won't keep you quite as informed on Alaska issues, but, it'll be here. It'll be here. But we will be off tomorrow and Monday because I've got stuff and things. Jeannie says, why? Stuff and things, Jeannie. Stuff and things. That's why. That's why. It's gonna be a fun time this morning. It's all the state. It's all my state holiday leave that I've been accruing from the state of Alaska. That's what's going on. I'm accruing it, and I need to burn it before at the end of the year. Anyway, we got stuff to do. So here we are, ready to go, ready to rock and roll, ready to make things happen for today. Today on the program, it should be interesting. Let's just put it that way. Coming up to join us today is candidate, for Senate District F, and one of our most controversial chat room members, Harold Borbridge, will be joining us this morning to talk about his candidacy for the state Senate. Now, this should be fun. Harold's been on before. And it should be an interesting conversation. It should be fun. So you should come on down and be part of it here. We're going to start with him here in about 10 minutes, and we're going to kick things off and get ready to rock and roll. And we'll go with him for the rest of the full hour in hour one here, and see what's going on. So break out your coffee or whatever's stronger, and get ready to be entertained. That's what it should all be about today. Then in hour two of the big radio show, we will be talking with Mikaela Emswiler, who is one of the luminaries in the Yes on 2 campaign. She's out there running the campaign and convincing people why the repeal of ranked choice voting is a good idea. So I thought we'd bring her on and see what's going on and talk with her in hour two today, and just get the full rundown and maybe get some more statistics on, what's happening on the fundraising and how the effort's going and what she thinks overall. We'll see what's going on. So we'll be jumping in on that in hour two today. And then we'll be off until Tuesday, where we'll be joined by Brad Keithley and Chris Story. But that means that I do have a couple stories in the meanwhile. There's first of all, what's going on in Palmer? What's going on in that quaint little deal that quaint little town up in the valley. What is going on over there? Well, they ousted the city mayor, I mean, it was that it's crazy. They ousted the city manager. Now they're trying to recall the city mayor amid allegations. The city manager apparently, or they allege that he erased a whole bunch of emails in the final hours of his employment and all this kind of, I mean, it's crazy. What's going on out there? This little tiny town of Palmer. I've been following things in Palmer for a long time and have been involved with all different kinds of stuff out there in the community and the chamber and the community events and just all the different, and things are getting weird in Palmer. I don't know what's happening out there, but maybe we need to do a show about that all by itself. Because I mean, I thought some of these little towns were immune to that. Maybe I was wrong? Question mark. Maybe. But we'll keep following up on that. But that is I don't know. I'm just watching it going, that is just crazy. All right, some other good news. The Division of Elections has now mailed out a second informational postcard. I don't know if it was good or bad. I guess it's good that they did this because they're trying to correct their mistakes. It's something that will help people. It's something that will help people, get through the ranked choice voting thing and how to mark the ballots, et cetera, et cetera. And so they mailed it out. The reason that they had to mail it out, again, is because the prior instructional flyer had the candidate names, these random candidate names, and one of them was Harris. It was listed in the presidential ballot, and it was voted for first, which immediately raised some eyebrows for some people. I mean, like, come on, you didn't think about this? You got all these fictitious names, and the first one for president, the one that's marked for first choice, says Harris on it, and you think that's that? I mean, it's either intentional or ineptitude, and is it intentional ineptitude? I'm not quite sure. The Division of Elections responded. The division director, Carol Beecher, has been explaining on talk radio. I mean, not this talk radio show, but others, because I don't know. I didn't even think to call her. I was just like, why would I? I mean, I don't even know. But she's been explaining on other talk radio shows that it was essentially an error. It was essentially just a mistake, and that the new flyers corrects the problem with the unintentional bias. Was it really unintentional, though? I mean, how many people had to sign off on that before you had, I don't know, 150, 200,000 of them printed and then sent off? How many people had to go, yep, looks good. Yep, looks good. Yep, looks good. Yep, looks good. And nobody said, hey, the name here is the same as one of the candidates. No. And then they made and if it was one mistake, I guess maybe. But the second one was the fact that they listed Mia Costello in her House district candidacy as a Democrat. Mia's been a Republican the entire time. Now, maybe not as strong a Republican sometimes as I would have liked, but she's a good gal. I mean, she does some good stuff, and she has done some good stuff, but not a Democrat. Not a Democrat. No, it's wow. So anyway, the good news is that a new sample ballot is out in the mail, and it's interesting. Don't skip a row or two in your rankings. There's some interesting things, the mistakes to avoid. So if you choose, for example, you choose candidate C for your first choice, but you only really want to vote for two, don't put candidate B or A or D as your third or fourth choice. I think they will exhaust your ballot. They don't exactly say. Here's what it says. It says, don't skip 2 or more rankings in a row. If you do, only the rankings before the skipped rankings will count. So your ballot will be exhausted. If you skip the second, third, fourth choice anywhere, if you skip any of those choices, your ballot will be exhausted beyond the skip. Don't line them up. Don't count. Don't vote for one candidate more than once. So candidate A can't be your first, second, and third choice. Don't give. Remember back in the good old days when it was just vote for one name, and we'll let you know in a few days. Vote for one name in a few days, and we'll let you know. Not in 30 days. After we run a slide rule and a supercomputer crunches the numbers. But it's oh man, it's kind of crazy. But anyway, the flyer's out, and hopefully it clarifies some things for people, and we'll see what goes on from there. How about a little Firearms Friday story, since it's Thursday and I won't be here for tomorrow? AmmoLand is reporting that the ammunition supply in the U.S. is in trouble. In the wake of mounting global tensions and disruptions to key supply chains, the U.S. ammunition industry is facing significant challenges. Several recent developments are converging to create a perfect storm that would lead to a gunpowder shortage, threatening both military and civilian ammunition supplies, according to AmmoLand. In May, Alliant Powders, a leading producer of reloading powders like Bullseye and Unique, suspended shipments of its powder, a decision driven by global conflicts, most notably the war in Ukraine. The company could not get a key ingredient, nitrocellulose, so prioritized its military contracts, diverting all nitrocellulose to ammunition production for defense purposes. This has left civilian reloaders scrambling for alternatives, according to AmmoLand. In addition to military customers being prioritized, there's China. In August, China started restricting export of nitrocellulose and antimony, 2 components critical for ammunition. Antimony basically is used for hardening bullets, and nitrocellulose, used in propellants, are both vital to keeping the U.S. ammunition industry running. China's decision has created widespread concern in the defense sector, as the U.S. relies heavily on Chinese imports of these materials. Okay, what I want to know is which brain donor thought it was a good idea to rely heavily on China for our supply chain of a vital national security resource like ammunition. Right? I'm just wondering why we would depend on what is ostensibly one of our biggest competitors. I don't want to say enemies, but our biggest competitors for anything that would. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm just trying to figure it out. Oh, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But so I hope you're stocked up. And if not, you might want to buy a box before things get too much worse, because they got to replace all that ammo they're shipping overseas to Israel and to Ukraine and everywhere else. They've got to replace all that before they go anywhere else. All right, we're about to return here. Harold Borbridge is going to be our guest. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back.
It's the Michael Dukes Show. Why not take a quick break? Be right back. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, good morning, and we're ready to continue here this morning. Why, says Jeannie? Why? I'm sorry, Jeannie. Stuff and things. Stuff and things. Says Terry. Stuff and things. Yeah, I got stuff to do. I could tell you, but then I'd have to yada yada yada. You know, right? I got some things going on. I gotta have time to do it, and I can't be tied to the desk. Can't be tied to the desk to do it, unfortunately. Okay. Ooh, ow. You ready? Let's check this thing out. Let's see. I see Harold is in the chat room or is in the green room. Let's see what if we got the proper audio, video. If all the wires are not uncrossed and everything works right, let's get him on and see how it's going this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. You come in.
Okay.
Coming in.
All right. Good. All right. Good. Well, we'll get ready to go here. I'll pull you back in here.
I was just checking your attendance numbers on there to make sure that they're the greatest numbers ever. So
the greatest numbers ever. Yeah, we want to expose you. We want to expose you to the widest audience ever made.
We want to have the biggest crowds of ever.
All right. Well, hold the line. I'll be right back to you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to you, and we'll see how it goes here. How much did it cost to taxpayers to pay for the next election card instructions? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, what are they? 600,000 voters. I mean, did they print a whole 600,000? Did they print half that to households? I don't know how many were printed, but you got to figure they cost at least a quarter a piece, right? Maybe 50 cents. They were pretty big. So, yeah. I mean, it cost $250,000. No big deal. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. $2.5 million, says Donna. She would know. She probably looked into it. Don't worry. $2.5 million. Just a simple mistake. Will anybody be fired? No, not going to happen. Not going to happen. He's buying Zach Brown's house in Homer. Only if I had your money would I be able to buy Zach Brown's house in Homer. Oh, man. 2.5 million. Oh, by the way, that includes the consultant that messed it up to begin with. Okay. Did they get paid again? I mean, I'm asking for a friend. They had a consultant do that. I mean, they can't do that internally. They can't figure that out. I mean, they needed I'm kind of speechless on that. Somebody said, did you mean Palmer or Houston? Apparently Houston's having a very bad day as well. Things are going bad in Houston as well. Houston, I'm surprised there hasn't been more coverage about what's happening in Houston. The mayor and the council have been running rampant and people are ticked. I mean, what is it with what's going on? No, good morning. Terry says Palmer is a real poo show. The city manager was a very bad actor. Yeah, they got out of him. They got him out of the, but I mean, this guy sounds like a bad actor to begin with. This is the third city in like 8 months or 10 months that he's been kicked out of. And they said he's collected like $200,000 in severance in the last year or something. I mean, I guess it's good work if you can get it. You just get kicked from one place to another. Although I would hate to move all the time. That would be a pain. But I guess if you lived out of a suitcase, maybe that, maybe it's a new career path. Who knows? All right, let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll kick it off here with Harold Borbridge. Well, right now, let's do this thing. 5-second mark. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
The Michael Dukes Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
All right, we're continuing this morning. Our guest is Harold Borbridge. He is a candidate for state senate in District F. He's also one of our usual morning chat room guests, one of the more controversial ones. But we welcome him to the program this morning to discuss his candidacy for District F. Good morning, Harold. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. I'm great. A little tired from flying all day yesterday, but we made it back to friendly Alaska.
Made it back. You did. Congratulations. I know your son was graduated from the military or from boot camp and OCS or what?
Yeah, it was. It's called the Turning Blue. They go down there, and when they actually finish all their what they call a combined basic and individual training, so they go through that. It's 22 weeks, and then they do a Turning Blue, which you get to spend a day with them, and then they graduate, and then they're out of there. Most of the it's a combination of enlisted Army and National Guard. Our son decided to do National Guard, so he went through the same training.
All right. Well, congratulations and glad
you got my Fort Moore cup.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All
Folgers.
Right. Let's Folgers. We know we can't vote for you, Harold, because you're drinking Folgers. That's what it's all about.
I know. My ex said.
Let's get started here on a couple things. I mean, some basics. First, District F. This is a race. You got Kaufman and Park are your opponents. Kaufman is ostensibly a Republican. You're ostensibly a Republican. Park is a Democrat. Right. The question was, you pulled just under 5% or so, or just around 5% of the vote in the primary. And many people's question was, well, why didn't you drop out? To give the other candidate, because the difference between the two would have been made up if you had dropped out. People say, and I have asserted possibly that could be the case, but you are saying, nope, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it. You said there's a path to victory. Explain to me your path to victory here.
Well, I'd be running other people's races if I did that. I'm not in here to do everybody else's bidding. I'm in here for District F. District F has quite a few issues, unaddressed issues, simply because James decided he's going to go to Juneau. And instead of addressing these District F issues, he's going to gladly join the binding caucus and then go along for the ride. Over the last few sessions, the binding caucus basically determines the state of your district, and that's wrong. If you're going to go to Juneau and represent your district, go to Juneau and represent your district. Don't go down there and sign up a binding caucus and say, hey, here's my vote, Gary. Here's my vote, Bert. So that's the main reason. As far as other people, hey, you should drop out, you should do this, you should do that. Maybe they should sign up. Maybe you should sign up and go for and go for it. But it's my race, it's my campaign. If folks want to go manage their own campaign, they're welcome to it.
Well, I mean, it is your right to stay in. I'm just wondering if you have some kind of forward, or if there's a plan. What's the reaction been on the street when you've been out on the street talking to people? Or do you think that you have a shot at actually dethroning one of the two of them?
Well, it's not whether I'm in there and I want to bring my message as to the issues the state is facing, and the ideas that James has and Bert and Gary have. The proof is in the pudding. I mean, the last 10 years, PFD has gone down. Schools are still in the dirt. Public safety, you're kidding me, right? I mean, we got how many people have got shot this year just in Anchorage alone? So there has to be some different direction as to what the entire legislature and the Senate take in order to address what my campaign is about. Is the three constitutional mandates: public safety. Number one, got to have safe communities. Number two is really good schools and private sector investment. If you don't have those three, you're just really not making the cut here. And they're not. They haven't been for the last 10 years.
No, I mean, that's one thing that I do agree with you with, and I admire you on, is that you focused on those three things. I think the back to basics is what we should be doing, because there's a lot of things we're doing in this state that are nice to haves versus must haves. And you do have more of an insight into one of the biggest issues, and we always bring this up with candidates, and that is the question of education, because that sucked all the oxygen out of the room last year, right? I mean, there was hours and hours and days of discussion about how they just needed all this extra money, and if they had this extra money, they could make it work. We could have better students, better schools, rainbows and kittens and everything else.
Yeah.
But you're saying that's not that they're not having the right conversations. What is the right conversation? What is the solution to the education problem in the state of Alaska, both in the academic achievement and in the funding?
Well, every single spend you do is an operational spend. It doesn't matter if you're building a pipeline, building a business, or funding education. If you're spending money, you expect to have some result for it. Okay, and in the case, and I have some experience with this, because in '98 I was actually with a DNR. And, they said, "Hey, come on down, do calculations for us down in Juneau for this new education formula or the rewrite." They did the rewrite. And folks always get they always point out the funding formula. Okay, let's fix the funding formula, folks. There's nothing wrong with the funding formula. All the funding formula does is calculates the difference between costs of, say, Nome, Kodiak, Anchorage, Fairbanks, and evens out the playing field as far as how do you fund a student equally across the state. It does a fairly good job of it. And the BSA is part of the formula. But the issue with education is, once the calculations are all done, okay, they simply cut off the calculations. They have 54 calculated amounts for the districts, and say, "Here's your money. Here's your money. We have no mandates for this money at all. It's up to you. It's up to you to educate our kids, and we don't have any requirements. We have no requirements where you spend it. We have no mandate. There's nothing in statute or regulations that says you have to spend a single dime of state entitlement inside the classroom." So over the last 20 years, the results speak for themselves.
So you're saying that essentially we need to be focusing more on what the money goes afterwards. There was a mandate at one point, right, written up that said that 70% should go into the classroom, but that went by the wayside. It never.
Yeah, it went into the trash can next to my desk. That's where that went. In fact, I even brought it up. I said, what's this? Where are we going to write this up? Because we were doing the regulations. They wanted us to write the regulations in our office for the finishing touches. And when I got to this, I says, "You got this mandate here. What are you going to do with it?" Well, the legislature decided it was better to have local control. And it's all great, and I'm 100% for local control. I love local control. However, after 20 years of local control, you have to stand back and you have to look at who is constitutionally mandated to provide a sound education in the state. It isn't somebody, at local control. It's the state. The Constitution says the state shall provide a sound education, or an education across the entire state. It's the state's responsibility. So why don't they pick it up instead of passing it on to localities who have no interest in, if they're going to get free money, 54 cost centers, and you get the results that you have. You're 47, 48, 49 at the bottom of the barrel.
So what is the solution then? I mean, do we need to mandate? Do we need to include that 70% provision? Does there need to be, a look at the administrative overhead? I mean, you've looked at this. What needs to happen to bring school funding into alignment and to increase the educational outcome?
Well, let's look at what the efforts of the legislature have been over the last 5 or 10 years. And I did a Google search on the initiatives that the state is, the READS Act, this initiative, that initiative. They'd all go through the Juneau committee, and they all sit down and say, "Well, what's wrong with our schools? Oh, well, let's do the Reads Act. And they did the Reads Act, and they didn't even fund it. The reason why it's not funded is because it's outside the funding formula and a few other odds and ends. But they do these initiatives to try to improve schools while they're passing out funds to districts who basically say, "Hey, let's do overhead. Let's keep the community up and running, and at the sacrifice of the classrooms." So the solutions that they're taking they're addressing the symptoms of what the unfocused funding has caused over the last 20 years. If you're going to buy overhead, you're going to buy administration, you're going to buy beautiful builds. Go out to YK. They got beautiful schools out there, state of the art. These those buildings are fantastic, and they got times 26. Take a look at Hooper Bay. That's a magnificent castle, and then you have to maintain it. So, in that light, most of your money is going to go to overhead maintenance, administrative overhead maintenance. If you're going to fund this education with the same formula, classrooms are going to suffer 100% of the time, and they have.
So this is an overhead and administrative and maintenance problem more than anything else right now. It's not a problem with
Lack of funds? No.
Okay.
You have plenty of money. You have more money than this is just a state entitlement, which is 1.25 or 1.3 billion dollars, and then you have the local taxes, and then you're pushing up to two some billion dollars for the entire education fund. Well, if you're going to do that, I'm calculated across 120,000 students, you're pushing what, 12, 14, 16, 18,000 per capita per student.
Right.
23,000. You do the calculation. And your results are going to be the same year after year after year.
All right. Let's say
so focus your resources that you have, and put a mandate to the district saying you need to focus our resources, our state entitlement resources inside the classroom.
So that's the solution, is making sure that it's inside the classroom. Consolidation. We talked about consolidation. Does that make sense of the school districts? Bringing it from 54 to 5 or 8 or 6 or 3 or what?
Well, if you want to go consolidation, you can consolidate the districts at the maintenance level. You could actually, YK, LKSD, some of these others. I'm not talking about the rail belt education system like the ones that have supported by property taxes. Okay, they have folks that if their taxes go up and too high, they're the school board saying, "Hey, folks, figure this out because we're not going to do this anymore." But you have 40 small districts that you have the capacity to consolidate the maintenance and the administrative section of it. And by golly, you don't need 40 maintenance directors. You don't need 40 business managers, and on and on and on and on. You can, in fact, if you wanted to, if the state was great, if they were private sector folks, they would say, let's form 12 districts, maintenance districts, 5 districts, consolidate at the maintenance level, say North Slope, Northwest Arctic, YK Delta, and put it out for bid for folks, for companies who want to go in and maintain these schools. On the other hand, you have the classroom, which you could, in some states they do appropriate separately. They're going to put the instructional formulas or instructional lines in an appropriation bill and say this money belongs in the classroom and send it out. So there's a variety of different ways you can do it.
What do you think? What do you think the chances are of something like that actually passing in this legislature?
Zero.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Say hi to our rookie nurse.
Rookie nurse is walking through the thing.
Yeah,
all right.
Ready for work.
We're going to continue here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Harold Borbridge is our guest. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more right after this.
listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
All right, we're in the chat right now in the commercial break with Harold Borbridge. Harold, like I said, I mean, one of the things you've been consistent on, and you haven't been consistent on some things, but on the one thing is that the focus on public safety, education, infrastructure. I mean, those three things that are mandated. So we just talked about education. How do we fix you talked about it. Anchorage has become, it seems like it's crime central, right? It's like it's downtown.
I've been here for years, and anybody who's been here for years has seen the decline of Anchorage. In an oil state, you're supposed to go up, supposed to progress, supposed to have better infrastructure. We don't have any of that. For some reason, the city get into this competition. Hey, we're going to spend too much. We're going to maintain too much, and all that other story. But in regards to getting into public safety, you have public safety education and private sector development. And we do a lot of work for some of the rural communities. We see where, everybody knows there's many communities that just don't have any.
When you say we, you mean your company? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Our work. Everybody has to work and make a living. Everybody has to, make ends meet so they can eat.
Right.
But, in regards to public safety, the state of Alaska approaches it. They have the state troopers, and then the Anchorage has their APD, and Fairbanks, has theirs and things like it. Kenai has theirs. Seward. We've got pulled over by folks in Seward. Hey, how are you doing, Josh? We knew he used to work for schools. But you have vast areas of the state that don't have any public safety. And unfortunately, it makes the headlines every so often. We had 2 girls in Hooper Bay that, got stabbed 60 times, for goodness sakes. There's basically no respect for law enforcement anywhere out in rural Alaska. So,
right.
And then you get a contingent of Anchorage folks saying, hey, what are these folks doing here in Anchorage? Well, would you like to live in a community that's dangerous all the time? You can't get up and progress. A dangerous community becomes what? A dependent community. If your community is not protected and thriving, or protected and safe, it's not going to thrive. It's going to become dependent.
So how do we fix that? How do we fix the public safety? Let's focus on public safety for a second, because that's what we're talking about. How do we fix that from a legislative standpoint? How do we make the state safer, crime less, and people more, feel better about walking the streets at night?
Right. One of the big things my dad always drilled in me, he says, if you're going to whine about it, at least come back with some kind of solution or some idea. Don't just stand in the corner and whine about things. So in regards to public safety, I have an idea. When we go back to this, why am I running? Well, I have an idea. And nobody's going to talk about it because they really don't understand the issue at hand. Why don't we take, and fund for communities that are greater than 500 folks, at least 2 officers, funded by the state, funded by the feds, and funded by the tribal compacts, 1/3 each. And it's not going to break the bank, folks. When it comes down to it, if you fund, on a consistent basis where you have at least a minimum of 2 public safety officers, police officers, well-trained, funded by 1/3 state appropriation, 1/3 federal appropriation. You can work with Lisa and Mary or Nick. If Nick's going to get in there, I know Nick. He's a Republican. He's 100%. If you put that in front of him, he said, that's a great idea. And the tribal compacts, they're always screaming for police officers. Unfortunately, for a lot of the smaller communities in rural Alaska, police is supported by a grant program that funds probably less than 1/3 of the grantee applicants year over year. And then once you get done with the grant, you're all done. Goodbye, police officers, and that's it. So you have there's no real respect for law or order or anything out there. in major areas of the state. So that's the public safety aspect of it. So we've dealt with education. That's my idea of public safety. Now let's go to private. What do we got? Do we have zero industry? I mean, come on, folks.
Right. Well, why do they even care about private sector at that point? Because they're not getting their money from there. So why do they care?
No, I mean, on the topic of the private sector, you can't look in Alaska's private sector and point out one or two major outside of the oil, outside of the fisheries, and these are extraction industries, where we build anything. We don't build anything up here.
Right.
So in order to have a thriving economy, you're going to have to establish something besides the extraction industry. And over the last 20 years, they haven't done it.
Right.
Zero.
We're jumping back here. We're going to rejoin the radio. Harold Borbridge is our guest. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the YouTube things, yada, yada, yada. Let's get it going on. Here we go.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Harold Borbridge is our guest, candidate for state senate in District F, running on the Republican ticket. Now, Harold, let's talk about, we talked about the things you've been pretty consistent about. Let's talk about some of the inconsistencies. Let me just say that I wave my magic wand because I have the power, and you are the senator from District F. How are you going to work with people who in the past you've said, oh, you're just a truck driver. You don't know what to do. You're just a pilot. You just don't know what to do. Oh, you're just a grader operator. You don't know how all this works. You've had some pretty caustic opinions of people who didn't have maybe a background in finances or something else, that somehow they couldn't figure out how all this worked. How are you going to look them in the eye and work with them when you've been flippant about what they do for a living?
When do the new iPads arrive? I can't be responsible for other people's feelings. You have this show, you have the everyday. But when you're a member of the legislature, you get into the room, there's the line. In fact, I am a constituent. I'm not a legislator. I expect every constituent, if I ever get elected, to come up and knock on my door and say, "Hey, what's going on? What's up here? And what do you know about it? You don't know anything." It's the right of a constituent to question their government. It's where'd you come up with that idea? And what's your background and experience? So as a constituent, I'm free to question. And what is it? Question your government.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have no problem questioning the government. My question is, how can you, if you work with people that it just seems like you don't have any respect for the thoughts or the ideas that they have based on the industries that they work in outside of being legislators. And that seems like it becomes kind of problematic. You've said several times in the chat room, you're the last true conservative Republican in the state of Alaska. What does that? I mean, what does that mean to you? I mean, what does
that mean to me? That means when we have politicians that go to Juneau and come up with these fringe ideas, and I'm not going to back down on the idea that if you're going to get elected, you have a certain amount of political capital to go down there and make a change. But if you're going to go down there and question an election that has 4 questionable ballots, if you're going to spend your time on that, instead of education, public safety, and infrastructure, if you're going to spend your time on election laws, election rules, and whine and complain about because somebody doesn't give you a report, that's their prerogative. But as a constituent, I'm going to say, hey, our schools are in the dump. 2 kids in Hooper Bay just lost out. We got crying. Anchorage is a homeless dump.
Right.
So as a constituent, I have that. That's my right.
But as a constituent, don't you have a right to? I mean, you just mentioned the election report, which we've talked about ad nauseum on this program, that was put together to review what happened in the division of elections, and it's never been released. This is paid for by public dollars, but done at the behest and supposedly for the support of the public. They've never seen it. We continue to see the division of. We were just talking about the sample voting ballot that went out wrong. We talked about the pamphlet with Mia Costello that went out wrong. I mean, they're obviously got problems in there, and there was a report. As a constituent, aren't you upset that you are not seeing the report that you paid for that would hopefully fix some of these problems?
Not without a major evidence of election fraud widespread across the district that would change the result. No, I don't.
But it's
care
an
about
efficiency. It's an efficiency report. It's not
Of
a
course it
fraud.
is. Of course it
It's
is.
an efficiency report. It would as a business owner, wouldn't you want to see a report on efficiency in an organization to see how well it runs and see if there's ways to make it work better and make sure that there's no mistakes?
No, no, I don't want to delve into the little details of that. I take a little broader. There's micromanagement, there's microeconomics, and then there's macroeconomics. I'm more concerned with where the state is, and I'm always going to go back to the three mandates: education, public safety, private infrastructure. If you're not addressing those three, all these other issues as far as what about the report from so and so and such, and how come it wasn't released because of some kind of 1798 regulation? That's going to come out eventually. I mean, it's not going to affect classroom support across the district, across the state.
Right.
My interest is those three failed mandates that the state is dragging along, and while they whine about election laws. Okay, let's get focused here. Let's get focused on what's important for your district in Alaska. And there's no widespread election fraud in Alaska. There isn't. Please bring it up to me. I'd be in first in line and say, hey, look at that.
Right.
Somebody, that's one. Go ahead.
Well, just to clarify again, the report was not about election fraud. The report was about election efficiency and how the division was being run and recommendations to make it run better. It wasn't about fraud. It was about other problems. But let me continue on. Again, you're the last conservative Republican in the state of Alaska, and yet you have continuously endorsed Peltola, Kamala Harris, those kind of things. Again, how do you reconcile that to your constituency when you're talking to them out on the street?
Well, first of all, you talk about results, and then you ask me about why I support folks. We can't even find the workforce for the projects that got dumped onto us over the last 2 years. It's to a point where people are getting paid $60 an hour just to run a grader, or just $75 to push a roller, or to even show up to work if you're skilled. There's no workforce in Alaska. Over the last 10, 15 years, the national economy has been booming. If you want a job anywhere south of Ketchikan, you can go down there and find a job. In Alaska, for some reason, we have this wide open opportunity, lots of projects, but folks don't want to stay. Bad schools, high crime, no private infrastructure. So address the problems, and go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, we need to address the problems. We need to embolden the private sector, but is it the government's job to create or to bolster the private sector, or is it government's job to get out of the way of the private sector and let it thrive?
The only provide a stable tax environment. That's it. Let the companies worry about their own bottom line. Over the last, for example, over the last 10, 15 years, the state has delved into, hey, let's give everybody a tax credit. Let's worry about the oil company's bottom line instead of our own. Okay? All you have to do is provide you're a legislator, your constituents are your responsibility. The state of the state is your responsibility. If you're going to give tax credits, and if there's no return on these tax credits, no increase in production, et cetera, then you better do something else.
So get the government out and let the free market rule, right? I mean, is that what I'm hearing?
Well, in regards to private sector, establish a stable taxable platform, put some incentives to get some stable energy across the state. Alaska is a wide open opportunity as far as doing those two.
Well, but at the same time, last week you said if the free market ruled, we'd have slavery again. We'd be back to slavery if we let the free market rule. Is it, are you in support of the free market or not?
Unregulated capitalism is probably the worst thing you can get into. Okay. If you're going to, you have unregulated capitalism, or you have unregulated public, government. Here's breaking news for folks. Big government is bad. It doesn't matter if it's public big government or if it's corporate big government. If your big government is ruling the day and saying, hey, we don't really need regulations for overtime or sick leave, or we can go back to this. And we had a civil war over the idea that slavery was outlawed. And that was 150 years ago?
Right.
So, as far as capitalism is concerned, you can say, and it is a fact, that if you had unregulated capitalism, we just fought a civil war back in the 1860s. As we want slaves, we're going to fight about it.
Final 60 seconds or so here, Harold, to give you a chance to tell people if you got a website, you got an address, are you doing any meet and greets, are you doing anything else? Your elevator pitch. Here you go.
Well, we did a ConocoPhillips forum right before we left. We went down to Georgia for a couple of weeks, and that was enlightening. Had a lot of fun. Some of the ideas I heard from James is, he's great. I appreciate his service. I appreciate his time down in Juneau. But his ideas, I can't compare my ideas with his, because he just basically hands them over to the binding caucus. I can compare my ideas with Janice, and Janice comes out with defined benefit. She comes out with lots of government spending for every problem that you have. And old Abe said, "Don't do for a man that he can do for himself."
Right.
And so a lot of these issues should be paid for by folks. If your economy is good, your economy is great. A lot of these issues that Janice is pushing wouldn't be an issue at all. Harold
Borbridge, candidate for Senate District F. Thanks for coming on board and joining us. Hour 2, dead ahead.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, Harold. I'll give you a chance here if you want. Final couple minutes here. If something we didn't touch on, something we did touch on, or something you want to expound on, you get a final 2-minute bite at the apple here, just like everybody else. Well,
I just want to go back and kind of highlight our discussion as to my point of view versus getting into the weeds. A lot of folks get bogged down. Let's do this. Let's do that. They come up with ideas. Hey, education's in the weeds. So let's spend time developing, READS Act, other initiatives and things. You get into the weeds. And I talked to you about the fiscal plan that folks developed. And if you stand back and take a broader view of a lot of these issues, a fiscal plan is an example. You're addressing the symptoms, okay? You're not addressing the problems. So my big pitch is take a broader view, focus on the constitutional mandates, education, public safety, private sector, and over time, you'll have a better state.
Well, you have to have the broad overview. Absolutely, right? That's the strategic overview. But don't you then have to have a tactical view of the individual components?
There is no broader view. Everybody has some focused idea on what they get it. They drag the weeds down to Juneau with them. Here's my problem, or here's the solution to the problem that I see. So there's no real. I wish the fiscal planning group took a wider view on the issues that are affecting the state, and saying, these are the mandates, these are where we're failing, and this is where we have to focus our efforts. And they did, again, they came back with something that was right out of the garden, pulled out a bunch of weeds and said, here's your solutions.
Well, you've said that the fiscal policy working group plan is not worth the paper it's written on. You're saying they should have taken a broader view. I mean, if you had been in charge of that, what would have your fiscal plan looked like?
Well, again, I'm going to hammer it every chance I get. Public safety, education, private investment, and if you're failing at those, you can't expect to go expand and do other things. As a government, these are your mandates. As a private sector company, ConocoPhillips, my responsibility, if I was with them, would be shareholder return. We're going to do things. This is going to be done so I can, bring more return to my shareholders. If the shareholders saw it was different, they would say, "Hey, we're not going to do that. We're not doing any of that." And they change like that. Unfortunately for the state government's a little slower. You got election years. You got folks in there 5. We got career politicians who've been there 25 years, and they bring the same ideas. And unfortunately, this time around, I feel that you're going to get another binding caucus in the Senate, and you got 2 more years of binding caucus, and we're going to get Wednesday morning word salad for the next 2 years.
All right, Harold, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have a website or someplace where people can go see what you've done? Or
I've got a Facebook page, and that's it. We're doing everything social media and walking. I'm really sore, getting in shape though. Heart rate's good, blood's good. So
good deal.
All
right, Harold Borbridge, thanks for coming on board and joining us this morning. I appreciate you. Whoops, I'm sorry, I cut you off your thumbs up there. Harold Borbridge, our guest here on the program here this morning. Okay, Mikaela Emswiler is going to be joining us here in a minute. I feel like I should have some. I feel like I need some Thousand Island or maybe some vinaigrette, maybe a little Italian, or maybe just some good old ranch. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like a large bottle of each. A large bottle of each. How do you fix something if you don't understand the details of it? How do you? It's interesting. You have 2 different people here. You have the person who is in the chat room, blue cheese. That's also a good choice. You're not wrong, Jeannie. Blue cheese for the word salad is definitely a good choice. But you've got 2 different people. You got the person who's in the chat room and then you got the guy on the. But yeah, when you say that unregulated capitalism is a very dangerous thing, and you still consider yourself to be the last conservative Republican, there's a dichotomy there that I haven't quite figured out yet, but we'll figure it out. We'll get her going on. We'll get it squared away. Oh, I knew that was going to be fun. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see where the thing is. You can be the big idea guy, but if you don't have the details on how the big ideas need to be implemented, that's the problem, right? And you can't poo-poo people when they want to get down into the weeds on things and try and fix they want to try and fix the problems. You can't poo-poo them for wanting about this. His point about corporatism in government is spot on. I agree with that. Like I said, I agree with his 3 principles of, public safety and education and private sector development. Although I think the answer for government and private sector development is just to get out of the way. But I agree with his points on the education thing. He's got some good points, but it's the everything else that I'm having a problem with on that. So, all right. I see Mikaela's in the chat room there, but I don't see her smiling face. Let me go over there. Mikaela, you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Is your camera busted?
I am trying to figure that out.
Okay. If you need to reconnect, you can reconnect in the meanwhile.
Okay.
And you can see if that fixes it. I'll put you back in the green room for now because we're about to jump back into it. Let's go. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Hour 2 is dead ahead.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That's just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, yeah. Live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com and across the great state of Alaska in this, your favorite radio station, on this, your favorite radio station, and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome back to it. It is the Michael Duke Show, and we are ready to dive into the deep end of the pool here. We just finished up with Harold Borbridge, who was a candidate for Senate District F. That was entertaining, I think is the word that I was looking for. Entertaining. Entertaining. Just go enjoy. If you missed that, you can go back and listen to it on the podcast, or you can even go deeper and go watch it on Facebook as well and see how that all played out. So feel free to jump in and check that out. It's available wherever podcasts are available, including Castbox, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. So feel free to dive on in there and be part of it if you'd like to do it. Joining us in hour 2 here this morning is Mikaela Emswiler. She is, and I hope I didn't screw up that last name. She is with the Yes on 2 campaign. I know it gets confusing. Whoops, I didn't do the thing. Hey, sorry about that. Yes on 2. I know that it's like we got 1, we got 2. Do we vote yes? Do we vote no? Do we vote maybe? Do we vote present? Remember, if you're a listener to this show and you love me, then you will say no on 1 and yes on 2. Okay, I'm just saying that if you love me, you'll vote no on 1 and yes on 2. See, even I can get confused. It's all good. But let's jump into it with Mikaela Emswiler, because she's going to tell us all about why we should be voting yes on ballot measure number 2. Mikaela Emswiler joins us right now to discuss it. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. This has been quite a roller coaster ride for the last couple of years, ever since the ballot measure number 2, which was the origination of ranked choice voting. It's ironic that now you had to vote yes on 2, and now you have to vote yes on 2 to get rid of it. But it was, it's kind of that irony thing. We've been fighting over this for the last couple of years. They kept telling us how great it would be, how it would be so easy, how everybody they kept telling us that if we voted yes, that they would get rid of all the
Dark money.
Right? I mean, that was the thing. That was how they pitched it. And of course, they mentioned that early on in the repeal effort, and now they've stopped because every one of these no on 2 ads is being funded by that same dark money. So Mikaela, tell me a little bit about the yes on 2 campaign and what's going on and why you are, why you're a part of it.
Right. Yeah. We've never seen so much dark money come into our state. This is record breaking this year. So we started as an initiative last year. Tens of thousands of Alaskans united together after the disastrous experiment of having RCV in our state. Back in 2022 is the first time that we actually did a round of it. And we just saw a lot of issues. Alaskans were dissatisfied. So the grassroots decided we want another opportunity to take a closer look at this and vote it out. So tens of thousands of Alaskans united together with a petition drive that would put the issue back on the ballot. And so I believe the required amount of signatures was about 26,000, and the grassroots ended up turning in about 43,000 signatures to Division of Elections. So they just went above and beyond the necessary number, which was a very clear indicator that, you know, folks believed that they would like to have the opportunity to get rid of this terrible system. We've gone through it twice now. We know how it works. We know how it worked before. So now we can come back and have more of an educated, we can make more of an educated choice about what system works best for Alaska.
Right. Well, and the folks in your campaign, the Yes on 2 campaign, and the folks who created the original ballot or the ballot measure to repeal, they were very strategic in what they did, right? Because it was sold to the people again to eliminate
Dark money.
And so when you eliminate it, that was the big thing. So they were very strategic in the way they wrote the repeal. The dark money components remain. The only things that are being changed are the jungle primary and the choice at the general election, the ranked choice at the general election. So the two things that were the worst about the bill are what they're changing. They're not changing any of the dark money component. They're just going back to the way it was. Instead of having, what did we have in that first runoff for Danya? 48 candidates. 48 candidates in the primary. I mean, you had to choose from Santa Claus to whoever. And then when you got down to it, you had those 4. And I think a lot of people were upset watching what was happening, where you had Peltola and Begich beating the hell out of each other over this whole time, and Peltola just stroking her chin in the background going, it's all great, it's all great, it's all good for me. I think that's, we have a purplish, reddish, bluish state, but mostly conservative, is mostly voted conservative. And when we ended up with a blue senator, people were like, what just happened? I think that was the big tipping point, don't you?
I do. And not only did we have Santa Claus on the ballot, but we also, if you remember, in the general election for U.S. Senate during the 2022 election, there was also a Hollywood actress from California who changed her name to Shoshana Gungerstein. You may remember her on the ballot.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, she got a short-term lease at a Airbnb down in Juneau and ran a very well-funded campaign, funded by outside money, special interest groups, all outside. And she was very active. She went door to door. She was in all the parades. And it was under the radar because with this system, the parties no longer can do the proper vetting of candidates. Typically, the way that we've seen this work is, in a Democratic primary, an independent libertarian, the cream rises to the top in their division, right? Like they are vetted. So we know who, and you put forth your best candidate. Well, in this case, this was under the radar and no one really caught it until it was closer to the election. This time around, we've got a New York felon on the ballot.
Wait. Hafner 2024. Okay. I'm just hashtag Hafner 2024. We're going to put that out there. I mean, this is part of the problem. How can you choose? How can you and I said this yesterday, parties are essentially clubs, right? I mean, they're essentially clubs. And, you can't have people who are outside the club, if you don't want them to, coming in and trying to influence the politics of your club, whether it's football or soccer or whatever. You can't have people from opposing teams coming in trying to tell you how you should run, how you should run or who you should raise. That's why there were closed primaries before, because the clubs themselves were choosing the best candidate to represent them, not the general public at large, not unless The clubs invited him. Like the Republicans said, if you're undeclared, you can vote in our primary. You just can't be a registered Democrat. And so that was okay. They could choose and then have one. They could choose the best instead of this whirling dervish of 15 different candidates, all with the same club membership behind their name. And now you've got to choose, and you've got to predict who might lose and who might win, and then choose on all that. It's overly complex and overly confusing for a lot of people.
That's right. We had, when you add in the 48, for the congressional race 2 years ago, and all the candidates for Senate, governor, there was 75 candidates that the voter had to go through and figure out who they wanted to vote for. So the burden was really on the constituents and voters. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of research that everyone has to do. It's
right.
Some people may like that, but for the average voter, we're busy.
Right.
We're out fishing. We're out working jobs, and to go through every single candidate like that is very burdensome.
Well, and let's talk about some of the misconceptions and outright falsehoods that we're hearing from not just the No on 2 people, but the other PACs who are putting in money and doing things like that. Mikaela, we can't vote yes on 2 because if we did that, our military will be forced to join a political party to vote in a primary. Didn't you hear that?
Right. Yeah. We believe that everybody should have the opportunity to vote. And, before ballot measure 2, nobody had to declare a party just to vote in a primary. So independents, nonpartisans, they could go to and pick out a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot. So we had pretty open voting systems before this system was put into place.
Right.
After ballot measure 2 passed, or after it passes this time, the same thing will happen. We'll just go, the language on the ballot says it will just go back to the way things were before a jungle primary. So that means independents, nonpartisans, undeclared, they can vote in a Democratic primary or a Republican primary. But the 2 major parties aren't able to game the system like we're seeing now. And then they are able to vet their candidates. And so the party will put forth its best candidate. And this is open to all voters. So no, this is just a red herring to throw us off our guard.
Well, it is not just, again, you're being too nice, because it's not just a red herring. It's a lie. You will not have to join a party to vote in a primary. If you are undeclared, first of all, if you're already a party member, you can already vote in your primary, whether you're a D or an R. If you are undeclared, independent, nonpartisan, whatever, you can vote in either one already. I mean, that could have happened already. So again, it's not just a red herring. It's a fat lie, big fat lie. And that's what they're trying to spin up with that.
And then they say that the political elites are trying to force these veterans. And I'm just like, the political elites, this is a grassroots movement where hundreds of tens of thousands of Alaskans signed a petition. This is the democratic process. This is what we do as citizens. We're not subjects here in America. We're citizens. We play an active role in, in making government work for the people, by the people. So you're absolutely right. It's a flat out lie. Now, the board of the Yes on 2 actually sent out cease and desist letters to the stations that were playing that ad when it first came out. And they were in contact with the No on 2 lawyer as well. And they just dismissed it like it was an annoying mosquito when we called them out on it. And what ended up happening is they stopped running that ad and just moved on to the next ad.
Right. So, this is the beg forgiveness versus asking permission thing, where they do the damage and then they walk away from it. They drop and they walk away from it. Yeah, I was going to ask you, how did it feel to be a political elite, kind of thing? Because I first of all, I had never heard of anybody who was working in the beginning when they first started putting this petition together and everything else. I wasn't familiar with any of the names. These were not people who were luminaries in any party, Republican or Democrat, that I'd ever heard of. And so the idea that somehow these are political elites, and if they are political elites, well, their bank account shows that they're not very good political elites, right? I mean, if you're being outraised 100 to 1, you may not be very elite in the political circles at that point. Hold the line for a second, Mikaela. We're going to be back here in just a moment. Mikaela Emswiler is our guest. We'll continue in just a moment. The Yes on 2 campaign. We're going to talk about this and where it goes from here. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We'll be back right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Now, unfortunately, Mikaela doesn't have a beard, so she can't have the beard power today. But vicariously, she is drinking coffee, so we know that it's all good. So it's all fantastic. I think that's part of our problem, Mikaela, is sometimes we're too nice. We try and take the high road, and we're like, no, it's disingenuous. It's misinformation. It's a red herring. And I'm like, no, it's a lie. You are just flat out lie. And how do you sleep at night, kind of thing? I mean, this is, where is this? But yeah, this idea that somehow you're going to disenfranchise people by going back to the system that we've used since statehood, that's going to disenfranchise people. But this new one works so great, in fact, that even the Democrats filed a lawsuit to get one of the people off the thing because it wasn't falling in their favor, right?
That's absolutely right. There's a high risk that a legitimate incumbent in Congress who is the first Alaska Native who's female will actually lose her election seat. Not because people are angry at her or people think she did a bad job per se, but because there's a inmate in New York City who's serving time until 2036, I believe, who's going to be taking votes away from her.
For threatening to bomb other politicians, by the way. This guy is in jail for threatening the lives of other politicians with bombs and other things. So, but I mean, perfect Democratic candidate. Don't worry. This ranked choice voting working as intended. This is what they wanted, right? Which the irony of this was so delicious. It was like, wait, you just said this is the best thing ever for all these things. When Palin and Borbridge were picking at each other and everything else, you're like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly how it was supposed to be. And now you've got somebody up there who may take votes away from your preferred candidate, and now you have a problem with it. The hypocrisy is, slice it with a knife. It's so thick.
And they say, how could a convicted felon be on your top 4? And this system makes things a lot more vulnerable to tampering. For example, we know that hundreds of Republicans had voted for Eric Hafner as their second choice. We know that. So that's how he got bumped up a little bit higher. So in the primary, you had, when they originally did the tabulation, you had the Democrat, Mary Peltola, and then 3 Republicans as the top 4. Well, the Republicans decided, we're just going to run one candidate. So the Borbridge, who had the most votes, will move forward, progress. The other 2 will step aside and just get all on the same team. When they did that, the 5th and 6th place candidates moved up into those slots. They just moved up. And that was the independent and then the other Democrat, Eric Hafner.
Right. John Wayne Howe and Eric Hafner.
That's right.
Up. So, yeah, that was, I think they were probably the pucker. You probably could hear the pucker from across the state when that happened that day. They were like, wait a second. Because I think they were wringing their hands again going, oh, it's going to be a Borbridge-Dahlstrom matchup and Peltola is going to skate to victory again. And then when Dahlstrom did the right thing, it was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Then the other guy stepped out, Swanson or Slaughter, whatever his last name was, I forgot. Anyway, he stepped out, and then it was like, oh no, and you could see the panic setting in. I think that's just delicious. I think that's just that is again turn out fair play.
Yeah, so now you have the Democratic Party suing Division of Elections. They pursued to get Eric Hafner off the ballot. They pursued this all the way up to the Supreme Court and lost.
Which
and
is
in their brief, in their trial brief, the party said, the Democratic Party said, ranked choice voting is a troublesome system.
Right.
Because who's the real enemy? This is not a Democrat Republican issue. This is not a conservative liberal issue. This is a common sense issue. The real enemy that we're fighting is these outside interest groups and all this dark money that we're seeing pouring into our state.
Well, when Catherine Murdoch reaches out and says, well, Alaska's a cheap date. We need to put they put $7 million into that race the first time around for that ballot measure. And they said, yeah, we'll do it here. And then they immediately went out and said, look, Alaska loves ranked choice voting. And that's the thing. They want to continue to use this as a stalking horse with the other states. But we'll talk about that here in a second. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
All right, we're back. Mikaela Emswiler joins us. She is with the Yes on 2 campaign. And we were just talking about all the irony of the fact that the original ballot measure number 2, which put ranked choice voting in place, didn't really. Now I work in radio, right? I mean, not just on the show here, but I run radio stations, and so during that campaign, I saw all the ads that were coming in, and I will tell you right now that 90 to 95% of the ads did not mention ranked choice voting at all. There were multiple ads that all talked about
Dark money.
That was the whole thing. Dark money. It was dark money this, dark money that. We want to get it out. They had like one ad that talked about ranked choice voting. Some teenage girl wanted potato chips from her mom. Get me Doritos. Oh, if they don't have that, give me Fritos. Oh, if they don't have that, give me Cheetos. Right? That was their answer to the ranked choice voting thing. But they built the whole thing on dark money. Why? Why did they want to get it here? Because as it was revealed later on, some of the people who were behind this, including Catherine Murdoch, said Alaska is a cheap date, low population density. They can be swayed on specific issues like dark money, and we can slip this in. That was the poison pill. Dark money, the poison pill was the ranked choice jungle primary part of it. The dark money was the sugar that made the bad medicine go down, and because nobody wants dark money. And of course, unfortunately, we've discovered it really didn't fix the dark money thing, because today dark money is funding the entire No on 2 campaign. And the reason why, Mikaela, and you can comment on this, in my opinion, is because they want Alaska. They've used Alaska and held it up as, look, Alaska loves ranked choice voting. They use it. And now they've got it out there. Colorado's looking at it. I think Nevada's looking at it. Connecticut. I think there's 4 or 5 states that are looking at it.
There's 7 states.
7 states. And so they want to use Alaska as that stalking horse to say, look, they did it. And that's why they're so terrified that we might repeal it.
That's absolutely right. We will be the first state to end ranked choice voting, get rid of it. Right now, Alaska and Maine are the only 2 states that have it statewide. And in the last couple of years, they have spread ranked choice voting to about 35, 40 different jurisdictions. I believe there's 5 states that have banned it in the last year or 2. And then there's 7 states where it's on the ballot for voters to vote on. But you're right. They're using Alaska as a case study and parading Alaska around as Alaskans love this system. In fact, right after the election 2 years ago, they immediately started running ads up here in our state, touting how wonderful it was and how much we loved it. And that's not the case. When we were boots on the ground collecting signatures 2 years ago, we had hundreds of volunteers in every district throughout the state, and they all said the same thing. People believed that they were sold a lie because they thought they were going to get rid of dark money, and no one really understood what that meant. A lot of people didn't understand. It just sounded like a good thing because we like transparency. We like common sense up here. And they did not realize they actually voted in a new system that completely re-engineered our entire elections.
Right. Well, who's going to read that? I mean, it was 27 pages on, I think, in the voter booklet, 27 pages of changes. I mean, that was the description of the ballot, was 27. I mean, I got to page 15 and I'm like, I'm not voting for this. Are you kidding me? I can't even read the, did anybody read that? Probably not. I mean, so how would they even know? They only know what they're told on the radio, which was that it was going to eliminate dark money. They barely talked about ranked choice or or jungle primaries.
So when you look at the financials of No on 2, I was really curious at how much money they actually raised within the state. And it was only about $10,000. The rest of the $12.2 million is from outside Alaska, from special interest groups and from some very prominent people on the East Coast. And you just have to ask the question, why? Why is there such a huge interest in keeping ranked choice voting locked in our state? They're in other states where they're pushing this, they're spending maybe $3,000 or $3 million over here, $2 million over here, but $12.2 million in Alaska.
Yeah. No, I mean, you got the 1630 fund, Amendment 4, the final 5, Kathy Gill, Catherine Murdoch, the Enron guy. I mean, you got all these different people, the Arabella Fund, everybody, all the money is circling this whole thing. And it's all about setting up the perfect example, the perfect puppet for other states to follow. And, they may say Alaska loves ranked choice voting, but they won't tell you that there's a repeal effort on the ballot. They won't say that. Nobody knows that outside. And it's frustrating. Now, where are you guys at? Because I heard at one point you had 100,000. Now I saw the latest report on Monday, I think, said you guys had raised about $68,000 or something, which again, $12.2 million to 60. Where are we at as far as funding, and where are we at on getting the word out on Yes on 2?
Yes, we've raised about $150,000 at this point. And we've just been passing the collection plate around. So as soon as the money comes in, we turn around and we purchase signs. We purchase our digital media. We have to be so smart with our resources. So we have a texting campaign. We have door to door. We're going to win this by our grassroots effort. We are Alaskans that put on our extra toughs and we tackle hard things. And that's, going door to door. That's spreading the word on social media. That's doing our targeted digital media anywhere we can to get our message out. We need all hands on deck because it is a David versus Goliath fight right now.
Right. Sorry, I was laughing because your South Central was showing. You said you put on your extra toughs. I would have said you put on your bunny boots, but that's just me, right? Because it's Alaska. Your South Central, your coastal living was showing on that. But you're right. That's where it's going to be because anecdotally, and this is just anecdotally, but I do talk to a lot of people in my position, in who I am, and the people that I deal with. And it's easily a 4 or 5 to 1 people who are against ranked choice voting. And every now and then I'll find somebody who's like, oh, I like it because it gives us more choice. And my poor libertarian friends, God love you people, you guys are wrong. But they're like, oh, we want ranked choice voting because they're desperate for ballot access. And it's the only way they can see for ballot access. But again, it's it's problematic. The whole thing is problematic. And people are confused and they're agitated and they're irritated because they were sold a bill of goods, because they were told, like you said, that it would eliminate dark money, but they really didn't mention the other stuff. And all of a sudden everything's changed. And then we see again the race with Peltola and she wins. And they're like, how does that happen? And people are confused. And people aren't stupid. They're just not paying attention to this to the level that, wonks like I am paying attention to it. Right. Go ahead.
I was just going to comment, and the reason why this is such a David and Goliath battle, if you remember last year after the grassroots and after Alaskans collected signatures, there was so much lawfare from the opposition. They threw so much accusation toward the group that collected signatures. And they went to file the lawsuit that went all the way up to the Supreme Court. It was almost like they threw just a lot of accusation just to see what would stick. And if they tried to do everything possible to silence our voices and to kill this so it would not go on the ballot. And part of their strategy was to drain the group of resources to handicap the group. So when we found out that it was on the actually moving forward, when we won in the Supreme Court, that was only 3 months ago?
Right.
So that's when the tide turned. And so if you think about it, to raise the amount of money, yes, we're a fledgling operation, but we're about 3 months old because we had to start completely from scratch in order for the campaign to move forward. Otherwise, we would have just been so tied up with all the legal fees. And yeah, so you can see what the agenda has been from the very beginning to silence Alaskan voices.
Yeah, pull out all the stops and everything else. And like you said, this is not really even a partisan thing. I remember when the original ballot measure was on there, people like Mark Begich were like, no, don't do this. I think Berkowitz even was on the no, don't do the ranked choice voting. There were prominent names on both sides of the aisle that were like, don't do this. But there are people out there, the Lisa Murkowski's of the world and things like that, who are all about it because it allows them to split the baby and remain in power. And that's why they want to keep this here, because again, Peltola, that's how she got in. That's the only way she'll stay in at this point.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's a dangerous everywhere, every angle that you look at it, it's been disastrous. I mean, there was even this really affects rural Alaska as well. Like, if you remember, there was 6 villages that didn't even get their votes counted. Like Norvik, Kobuk, and there were some others. But because of this system, and if you think about the domino effect, now we have to mail in all of our ballots to a processing center down in Juneau, where they run the machines through the tabulation, run the ballots through the machines to do the tabulation. But there was about 6 villages where, due to one reason or another, their votes didn't even make it by the time of the certification. So their voices were completely silenced. They did not even count.
Right.
Well, egregious.
Yeah, we talked about some of the downsides yesterday. There was the Goodbrook Institute and the Heritage Foundation. They both have got some really good studies on why ranked choice voting. And one of the things that has been talked about many times is the disenfranchisement of those people who have English as a second language, and also the elderly, because they've been voting for decades in a certain way, and now you're asking them to change their thing. And many times they don't do it, or they don't do it right. They exhaust their ballot early. They don't get the full choices. And what I don't understand is you're asking people to predict the future when you ask them to rank 1 through 4, because you don't know who's going to win first. Maybe I change my mind if my prime candidate loses in the beginning and then there's a runoff. Maybe I change my mind. Maybe I want to make a change in the. You're asking me to predict the future, and that is it's ridiculous. And the fact that I have to wait 30 days to figure out who actually won an election, I mean, it's just crazy at that point. If you have to, I said it yesterday, if you have to have a slide rule and a supercomputer to figure out who won, have to go through the ballots to figure out who won, that's way too complicated. One person, one vote, done.
That's a really good point. In 2001, the director at Division of Elections actually testified down in Juneau that there's no way to do an audit on the elections under this system. So by law, under Alaska statute, you have to be able to audit the outcome of an election. But under ranked choice voting, we can't even do that.
So back in 2001, they made this sheet. This is like when somebody was talking about it back in the day, 20 years ago, and she said we can't do it, and we still can't do it.
Oh, sorry, 2021.
2020. Okay,
yeah, 3 years ago.
But even again, if you can't audit it, and that's what the law says, we have a problem. We have a real big problem here, because how do you know? Mistakes do happen. I mean, look at the Division of Elections over the last few days. Mistakes do happen. You think that something can't happen there, and it takes 30 days to figure it out. And how do you go back and audit? I mean, it's there's way too many problems here. All right, I'm going to give you the final segment here, Mikaela. I'm going to give you I've been hogging a lot of the questions and everything, but we'll let you drive the bus here a little bit here in just a second. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. Mikaela Emswiler is our guest. Yes on 2 is the campaign, the repeal the ranked choice voting ballot measure. We'll continue with more in just a moment. It is the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based. Free thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, Mikaela Emswiler is our guest. It's a series of tubes. It's a series of tubes that we're broadcasting over right now. We're in the commercial break, and we're going to go back through here. Brian also brings up a valid point. Visually impaired people as well. I mean, that's the thing. Is that visually impaired people, the elderly, English as a second language, they've all had a problem. They've all had a problem with that. Ballot access, and then Brian also says, we're highlighting Brian today, ballot access isn't going to help the big L party, the Libertarian Party. It's their red herring. And that's what I say. This is a disingenuous argument to say it gives us ballot access. I mean, hey, I voted for Chris By in the first congressional race. I voted for, I've forgotten the guy who was running for the Senate. The Libertarian guy. I just forgot his name. Anyway, I voted for him as well, and Chewbacca and everybody. But I mean, again, we can't look at this and throw everybody to the wolves just for the sake of getting somebody's, party on the ballot. We've got to look at the overall picture. And I think the most dangerous component of this, outside of the ranked choice voting, I think the most dangerous part of this is the jungle primary. That's the dangerous part. Mikaela, what do you think?
Yeah, again, we know how the system works and how the system used to work. And there's plenty of studies that show us what the long-term effects are. We know that veterans did not, were never forced to join a party just to vote. Where anybody could run their candidates, the independents, the libertarians, Green Party, with the proper vetting. And now we've got this jungle primary where it's anybody can run. We're seeing that. The Hollywood actresses, the New York felons. What's stopping other disingenuous people? What's stopping Russian spies? You could have anybody run on the ticket. And so nothing says election tampering more than disingenuous people with dishonest motives.
Right.
Running that aren't even from Alaska, claiming to be whatever party they want to be and be on our ticket.
I forgot about the Shoshana thing. I was just, when you were saying that, I was thinking about, I forgot about that. And that was, this gal was hired as an actress to play a candidate, essentially. And she did it in real life. She was LARPing as a candidate. And did they ever find out who was behind all that? Was it some kind of ploy? Was it a political thing? Did you ever hear anything more about that?
I know that she was funded by outside money, but I can't recall exactly what the sources were at this point.
Yeah. But when you've got that kind of stuff going on in these major races, and there was 4 people, I think, in this last primary that had never lived in Alaska and weren't living in, including Hafner, people who had PO boxes in, New Mexico or wherever.
Warehouse.
Yeah, North Dakota warehouse. Yeah. And you're like, how does this even work? How do these people even get their name on the ballot when they are not a valid citizen? They've never lived here. They have no intention, or in Hafner's case, have no ability to come down here and live here. How does it even make it? This would all have been solved by the primary system that we had prior to ranked choice voting.
That's right. And not only that, but we've seen how ranked choice voting has suppressed the vote. It has led to the historic low voter turnout. 2 years ago when we ran this, we had the lowest turnout in the history of Alaska. I think it was 44.4%, down from, I forget exactly what the number was, but, before we had the highest voter turnout, so it suppresses the vote. They use a system called, they use the term ballot exhaustion, where if you don't rank all the candidates, they'll redo the tabulations or exhaust your ballot. So there was about 15,000 ballots that were exhausted. I think that's a pretty word for trashed. I like to use the word that they trashed the ballots, because that's exactly what they did.
Disenfranchised. That's the word that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you didn't get a say in the rest of this because you didn't pick the winner on the first go round, so you're out, kind of thing. And that was one of the other things that Great Brook and others pointed out, is that in every ranked choice race, the person who's been winning never captured the majority of the overall votes cast. It's not majority rule. It's not that democratic voting system that they keep talking about. I mean, we're a constitutional republic with a democratic voting system, right? One person, one vote, majority rules on the vote, and then you got apportionment through the Senate and other thing else for the constitutional republic part of it. But you got to have that majority rule. And when people are winning after you go through 4 rounds of choice and everything else, and they're winning with 37% of the overall votes cast, that's not majority rule. I mean, that's not how it works.
Yeah, you're right. There's even studies from the NAACP, which is a pretty, they're more of a liberal organization. And so both in Minnesota and New York, they adamantly.
Hold on, Mikaela. We'll pick this up because we're 5 seconds from joining. I don't want to walk over you here. So let's get to it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Mikaela Emswiler is our guest. She's with the Yes on 2 campaign. During the commercial break, we were chit-chatting, as we're off to do, and we were talking about disenfranchisement. We were also talking about how it really, ranked choice voting eliminates the whole idea of majority winning an election. In fact, with most ranked choice voting, the candidates who eventually win, always do so with less than a majority of the overall votes cast. Sometimes, usually in the 38, 39, 40 percentile range, meaning of all the votes cast, they only got 40% of the vote. How are they winner? And you said that there was a study that came out from the NWA. What was it?
The NAACP. They're more of a progressive organization, more liberal. So both in Minnesota and New York, they in their study, in their research, they adamantly oppose ranked choice voting because they said it disenfranchises the most vulnerable voters. Exactly what you were saying. They said it leads to systematic voter suppression over time of our most vulnerable voters. I mean, this is serious stuff. Why would anybody want to vote in such a terrible system as ranked choice voting? Everywhere, every angle you look at it, there are some major issues with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's problematic. So I promised to give you the floor here in this final segment on the thing. So what do we need to do? How can we help? What do we need to know? Let's kind of go over all that, and I'll let you steer the conversation here.
Sure. Well, what we really need everyone to do is get out and vote. Vote early. Vote yes on ballot measure 2 to end ranked choice voting. Get rid of this terrible experiment that we've had, this terrible system. So vote yes on ballot measure 2. You can also go to our website, which is yeson2ak.com. That's the number 2, yeson2ak.com. And you can donate or sign up to be a volunteer. We've got door-to-door activities. We're doing sign waving. We're doing everything that we can to get our message out. Post on social media. Tell your friends, text your friends to encouraging them to get out and vote, and to let them know that to vote yes on ballot measure 2. So those are the types of things that we're doing right now. Those are our biggest needs. We're in the home stretch. We're almost there. We're fighting a massive machine from the outside outside special interest groups. And so this is really, this is the time for the grassroots and Alaskans to stand up and make their voices heard.
Do we still have time? I mean, is there still time to do more advertising? Should we be donating money? Door walker. Somebody in the chat room said earlier that they were walking for you guys, I guess down in Seward or something, and that people who are walking the neighborhoods. What are you in need of most? Is it treasure or is it time and energy? What is it that you need?
I would say equally both. If we have the resources, we will expand that to our text message, get out the vote. We will also bump up our digital media as well. So resources is great. We've been keeping the presses really hot with all of our printing of signs. As soon as we print a batch, they're gone. So we've got some signs left. Of course, we're right down to the wire. And then the grassroots, as far as door knocking and phone banking, sign waving, all of that, we could really, really use all the help that we can get in every district across the state, in every neighborhood.
11 days, essentially, to the election. And early voting is going on right now. Are you bolstered by the fact that, somebody said that not only did they have 54,000 absentee ballots were requested, the lines 1-2 hours sometimes outside the election offices for the early electoral folks to get in there. Are you bolstered by that? Do you think that is helping out? Or
yeah, absolutely. I'm so encouraged. I just drove by Division of Elections 2 days ago, and the line was out the door and down 2 blocks here in Anchorage. So I'm very encouraged by all the people that are getting out and casting their vote. We've got to have our voices heard. We are at such a critical time in our nation and in our state, and we need to show up in force and make our voices heard. So we're really in the fight of our lives.
Mikaela Emswiler, Yes on 2. Again, you can go to yesontoak.com. That's the number 2. Yesontoak. And yet Terry just said 11 days to the election, 30 more days after that to get the results. Yeah, I know. Exactly. Mikaela, why did you join? I guess this is a good question as we get ready to wrap things up. Why did you join the Yes on 2 campaign? What was your passion when you looked at this? Have you been against it from the beginning or what?
Yeah, from the very beginning. I joined because I worked on a U.S. Senate race a couple years ago, and I just saw the disastrous experiment that it was and some of the major issues. And when I started hearing stories of people coming out of the ballot box, coming into the campaign office and saying, oh my goodness, like I voted for, I cast my vote and then the machine rejected it. So I had to rip it up and do another one. It took me 5 times to get it right. And the discouragement, the tears. I'm so passionate about freedom. I love common sense, like we do up here in Alaska. But if you look at the big picture and see the agenda and the forces that are coming against us, it makes me just want to roll up my sleeves and double down, because I've got children and this is the nation that's worth saving. And we can't let these radical ideals, we're in a battle of ideas right now. Right. I see there's good, there's versus evil, and our nation is at a crossroads right now. There's so many agendas that are trying to rip the moral fabric of our nation apart, and I'm going to fight with everything that I have to preserve the great nation that we have.
Right. No, you say you want to roll up your sleeves. Makes me want to throw down some sandbags and dig some foxholes. You know what I mean? At that point, there's like it's an invasion. And I think anybody with an ounce of intellectual honesty and integrity will look at this and look at all the names at the end of every one of these ads. And if all they see is this fund, this group, that group, all of them from outside, they should know we don't give a damn how they do it outside. We should be protecting our own self, and we should be not caring what outside people are saying. We should be caring what people inside the state are saying. And that's kind of where I live it at. All right. Final thoughts here, Mikaela. I'll give you the floor here for a couple minutes. Your final thoughts and final elevator pitch to people out there who may be on the fence about whether or not they should repeal ranked choice voting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say, this system has been very dangerous. It's a confusing, complicated system that gives greater control to dark money. It suppresses the vote. It leads to manipulation of election outcomes where you can't even audit the outcome of an election. We've seen how it disenfranchises vote, especially in our rural communities where their voices and their ballots were tossed aside. We've seen how we've got felons, New York actresses on our ballot. It's a very this is an emerging threat, and it's a complete danger to our republic. And so it's a terrible system that has to go. So I'm encouraging everybody to vote yes on too. We need to bring back simple, straightforward, common sense ways to do our elections. And we really need to, if we're going to protect the integrity of our elected leaders moving forward and then protect our nation, like we need a system that is safe, that is integral to we the people. So
Right.
Yeah, I just encourage everybody. I cannot emphasize this enough. Like, get out and vote today, this week. Get out and vote.
Like we like to say around here, vote early, vote often. That's what we're saying around here. Just get out
And
there.
vote yes on two.
Yep. No on one, yes on two. That's if you love me, that's what you'll vote out there if you go out there and do that. Mikaela Emswiler, and again, 100-1 funding difference with all that outside money coming in. 12 point, it's probably by the time the final report will be out, I guarantee it'll be close to probably $14 million by the time it's all done. They will have poured into the state to try and convince us what a great deal ranked choice voting is. And we just need to say no to that by saying yes on two. Say no by saying yes. Yes on two. Mikaela Emswiler, thank you so much for coming on board and joining us today. Good luck. Yesontoak.com. Hopefully folks come out there and see you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks
really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on board and joining us this morning. We appreciate it. All right, folks. Well, that wraps things up for today. And in fact, that wraps things up for the week. Just a reminder, I will be off the air tomorrow and Monday, but I will be returning to the airwaves on Tuesday with Brad Keithley and Chris Story, and we'll be doing all kinds of stuff there. It'll be fun. Just say no to outside dough. That's what you need to do. Just say no to all that outside dough. Yes on two. No on one. Yes on two. There you go. If you love me, that's what you'll be saying to yourself when you walk into that booth and get it done. All right, my friends. Well, we're out of time. We will see you guys tomorrow. As always, I ask just one thing. Be kind, love one another, and live well. All right? It's going to be good. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We will see you on Tuesday. Okay. Terry just said, these 2 days is going to shorten my Christmas basket. Jeannie says, I'm feeling abandoned. Guys, there's some things that are going on in the background that I can't tell you about right now. All right? But I will tell you about them shortly. And this is part of it. Big changes are a-coming. So look forward to that. All right? And sometimes that requires a little sacrifice, a little investment on the one side, right? We'll get it on the other side. And yes, I'm still taking my Christmas break. I got to take the Christmas break, especially this year. Like I said, I've been busier than I have been in my entire life over the last 2 months. And yes, it'll be fun. It's gonna be amazing, and I hope you'll be as excited as I am. But change, it is a coming, and couldn't happen without you guys. Couldn't happen without your help, your support. Couldn't happen without you joining the Common Sense Corps either. Go over there and join the Common Sense Corps. Help us out. Help a brother out. Put some shoes on my kids' feet. All right. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. We'll see you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
in the